Welcome to Zoom In, Zoom Out. I'm Isabel Wang. Taiwan recently wrapped up its 42nd Han Kuang military exercises. This year's drills especially highlighted strong US-Taiwan collaboration in combat readiness. To discuss further of the highlights of this year's live-fire drills, we're joined by Dmitri Alperovitch. He is the co-founder of CrowdStrike and chairman of Silverado Policy Accelerator. To dive deeper into some highlights of this year's military drills. Dmitri, thank you so much for taking the time today to speak with us.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
You're a very active figure in DC's defense technology ecosystem. Coming here, what do you think is the current status of the US-Taiwan defense collaboration?
I think it's stronger than ever, and you see at this year's exercise more and more Americans like myself showing up and observing. Obviously, we're right now waiting for the final approval of the weapons package, the weapons sales package to Taiwan. We've had a number of them over the years, and it's great to see the new equipment that has now arrived, the HIMARS systems and others now being used in these exercises.
What are some special things specifically or indicators that you would observe to see whether it's a success or there are still rooms for improvement?
I was very pleased to see how the whole exercise was put together. It's much more unscripted. It's much less focused on flashy things like fires that don't do actually a lot for combat readiness. Warfare is all about logistics, and I just literally came from an exercise where they were demonstrating a refueling and rearming of helicopters at an impromptu airfield that they set up. Those are the types of things you want to see, because in a real fight, that's what actually matters. Can you refuel? Can you rearm? Can you get the troops back into the fight quickly? And it was actually quite impressive to see how they've performed.
In your book, you talk a lot about beach defense. This year, specifically in Taiwan, we have the new Danjiang Bridge, and it's also a part of the Han Kuang military exercises. So let's imagine if the PLA is going to take over Taiwan using beach defense as a strategy, what action would they take?
Yeah. So I wrote the book before the bridge was opened, and it was very interesting to see how the bridge was incorporated in this year's exercises. I think we still have a ways to go. If you look at the example of Ukraine, the famous Antonovsky Bridge over the Dnieper River is what really enabled the Russians to get over to the right bank of the river and to take over the city of Kherson, the largest city that they were able to take in the course of this war, at least temporarily. You need to make sure that that bridge gets destroyed if there is a real invasion. So I would have loved to see more practice of demolitions, obviously not blowing the bridge in peacetime, but knowing that you can do it quickly should you need to do it, because not only does it cut off the ability of the Chinese to advance rapidly across that bridge, but blowing that bridge would also sink it in the Tamsui River, which is one of the key entry points into Taipei via the LCAC boats that can go fast into that river.
This year especially, we see very strong or stronger US-Taiwan collaboration in combat readiness. You yourself are also here in Taiwan to observe what's going on during the Han Kuang exercises. With more US presence, where do you think that this kind of collaboration is heading toward?
If we're going to be in a fight vis-a-vis China, we have to cooperate. We have to not be at arm's length, right? We have to not only know that when we go left, you need to go right to deconflict, but really from targeting perspective, from the joint intelligence picture on the enemy, we need to make sure that collaboration, that those communication links work really well.
Will you foresee there will be more US personnel at presence, and then what would they interact, or how would they teach the Taiwanese military side?
Well, we'll see. As you know, US personnel presence on Taiwan is always a thorny issue, but certainly we're seeing more and more Taiwanese military personnel coming over to the US for training exercises. Watching the helicopter pilots today was great, because that they were trained in part in the United States, in Mississippi and other places. So this is just a key indication of the growing interconnectedness between the two militaries.
They are focusing a lot from the U.S. military strategies. One of the examples would be backbriefs, right, to have decentralized command for potential China invasion in 2027. Do you think that Taiwan is prepared?
I don't think that Taiwan is prepared yet. The good news is neither is China. So I don't think an invasion is imminent, even though President Xi has given an order to his military to be ready to invade by 2027. They're nowhere close to being able to meet that timeline. He'll still probably declare it as being ready, probably in August or fall of next year. But the reality is that we still have time, and we need to use that time wisely, and we can't waste a second of it.
Can you elaborate more on like how would you suggest on using those time wisely?
The type of exercise that I saw this week is great, but that exercise cannot happen once a year. That type of readiness needs to be tested month after month to make sure that it's sort of built into the muscle memory of the soldiers that are performing these tasks. They know exactly what they need to do, because in warfare scenario, adrenaline is high, you're not reading manuals, you're not asking for how to get something done, you just do it. And the more you've practiced it, the more you practiced, in the US military we say, you want to practice to fight like you actually fight, the better off you will be in a real combat situation. So more training, more regular training is really imperative. Also, more of a focus on the resilience of the society. It's great to see in this exercise the attempt to degrade the internet access, because in a real war conflict, you expect the Chinese to cut off the cables, the internet cables going to Taiwan. So knowing that both the civilians and the military as well can adjust to that scenario is really important.
We actually had like the first internet slowdown as part of the resilience drills. What do you think that the military or like local government or even just civilians like us can work together to improve this type of resiliency?
So I think there needs to be more done to look thoroughly at the networks that are currently used in Taiwan, mobile networks, terrestrial and satellite networks, and see what can be done to up the bandwidth to make it more resilient. Right now you have this amazing revolution that's taking place in satellite-based communications. This is an opportunity for not just the government, but even private sector companies in Taiwan that are worried about these scenarios that can be caused, again, both natural disasters and man-made disasters, to think about how do you make sure that this most vital resource, the internet, nothing except maybe water and power is more vital, remains on even during the most dire scenarios.
For the second half of the Han Kuang military drills, we are building civil resilience. What are some other like indicators that you will see throughout this kind of exercises?
Well, communication is really important. Looking at medical supplies and how we handle medevac, evacuating wounded from the battlefield. There are trainings that are taking place right now in that scenario as well. I also want to see more integrated training. So for example, in the helicopter training we've just observed, there were people set up for anti-drone defense, but there were no drones that were actually being used against the simulated refueling point. So being able to take a more realistic threat scenario, integrate offensive fires like drones and defend against them would be one of the things that this can improve on in future years.
Throughout this visit this time, like what are your other plans like to interact with more, local officials? Or like what are the key points that you will probably talk about?
Yeah, I'm going to be meeting with a number of government officials, getting more details on this exercise and their plans for the rest of the year and future years. One of the things that is really important from my perspective to understand where the focus areas are in terms of spending on military procurement. I think while it's really important to buy American weapons that are needed for this fight, it's also really, really important, perhaps even more important, to invest in domestic production. Not just because that's how you build ultimately political support for this, but also in the event of conflict, should it come, being able to resupply Taiwan is going to be out of the question, at least in the initial weeks, if not months. So making sure that Taiwan is self-sufficient in production of munitions, particularly missiles, and missiles that can sink Chinese ships, missiles that can even hit mainland if they have to, is really, really important because they may not be able to have enough American missiles to do so. So focusing on building a robust defense industrial base. I mean, Taiwan is a leader in microelectronics production, right? Not just semiconductors, but the whole supply chain. There's no reason why Taiwan cannot be one of the leaders in weapons manufacturing, which is not only important for Taiwan's own defense, but also can be an incredibly lucrative industry for Taiwan from an export perspective.
That sounds like an ideal plan if we get to increase or pass our defense budget. But realistically, how can U.S. pass along their experiences to Taiwan's government or like the defense ministry, even to military personnel?
Well, I think there are a lot of people coming over, retired military personnel and others, trying to advise the Taiwanese military. We're starting from zero because, of course, when we left in 1979 and reversed our recognition, We basically severed most contacts between Taiwan military and the US military, which I think in retrospect was a huge mistake. And not only did you not end up training with us, but you also basically got cut off from the rest of the world. And I say this all the time in Washington, D.C., that we shouldn't be surprised that the Taiwanese are behind where we want them to be, because they were essentially in a bubble for 45 years. And now we're sort of waking them up out of this freeze and asking them to do more and more. But we have to be patient here and understand that it will take time.
But you also interact a lot with defense tech startups in DC or in the States in general. Some of them are looking hoping to expand their presence in Taiwan or even to the Indo-Pacific region. What are the things that you probably commonly hear from them, like opportunities to expand here, and then also the roadblocks that they may hit when they are trying to do that?
Yeah, look, I think there's a growing, robust partnership. I know Anduril is here, a company that I'm invested in called CAPE that focuses on mobile security is here working with the Taiwanese governments. So things are improving. There's a lot of opportunities to work with Taiwan, right? The direct one in terms of direct sales, but also using American funding and foreign military sales budgets. So, the best companies try to be flexible on how you manipulate the system and whether you go direct to Taiwan, whether you work through US Congress and administration. But everyone sees the opportunity, and not just a business opportunity, but an appreciation that this is really the next fight. Hopefully it never happens, and we need to make sure that we deter the next fight. But should it take place, this is going to be the epicenter. So, I say this to defense companies that want to pitch me on their capabilities all the time as an investor. If you're not building for the fight in the Indo-Pacific, I don't know what you're doing, because that probably is the next future war that you need to be ready for.
Just your piece of advice to look ahead of Taiwan's defense scenario, or what we can do, or what the Defense Department can do to improve our whole society resilience. What are your suggestions? Well,
look, and let me speak to the Taiwanese people here for a second, because they shouldn't despair. This is one of the worst places imaginable to invade. The terrain is so difficult. First of all, the heat. We were just observing this exercise. These poor soldiers in their full gear, barely surviving in this heat. The Taiwan Strait, some of the most treacherous waters in the world, the mountains, the rivers, the climate makes this so difficult. And a capable defense is absolutely possible here. I know there's a lot of questions about whether the United States will be in or not. We have a policy of strategic ambiguity on that issue. But Taiwan itself should be capable of defending itself. With the invention of anti-ship missiles and satellite-based intelligence collection and reconnaissance, drones, and so forth, we can make this absolutely impossible so that Xi Jinping wakes up every single day and says, I can't do this today. That's ultimately the goal, and it's absolutely achievable.
Do you think that having stronger US-Taiwan collaboration militarily would send, what kind of signal would we send to Xi Jinping or PLA?
Well, we have to be careful. Look, there's concerns, obviously, that China would consider, deep connections between the US military and Taiwanese military red line, and that could trigger an invasion. We don't want that, right? So we have to walk that line of how do we help, but not help too much, that can actually increase the risk of conflict. But the point here is that there is a lot of help that's already been offered. I'm sure there'll be more, and I see more and more readiness on the part of the Taiwanese government to receive that help and to, not just sit there, wait around for the US to tell them what to do, but a lot of great ideas coming out of Taipei itself on what needs to be done.
Thank you, Dmitri, so much for taking the time to speak with us today. And then it has been great to hear your insights and what you observed during this year's Han Kuang drills.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for watching this episode of Zoom In, Zoom Out. If you enjoyed today's stories, don't forget to follow us on TaiwanPlus News. Hope you enjoyed the show. Until next time.